you've actually produced an article in your magazine that says that if you double the size, double the number, you don't double the volume. So that is fact. You know, by playing 20 pipers, you don't get twice the volume. If you play 10, it goes up in a certain ratio. I mean, if you did double volumes, none of us could stand at the mass bands. You know, I mean, it would be just absolutely horrendous.
What it is that the ear can't perceive.
Yeah,
that's the sort of.
But there is, when you get to a certain figure, you do get a thickness of sound with additional players that you don't get.
You get a texture.
You get a texture, this thickness of sound. If you get 3 guys, they're playing away there, and it might be lovely to listen to them, but you get this. You don't double the volume, treble the volume, but you get a thickness of sound, which is, I think, more pleasant, as long as it's in balance with everything else that's happening.
These are all, what we're discussing here is the symptoms. The root cause of this is we have a perception or a rule, if you like, you want to call it a rule, where we believe that every player that crosses the line should play all of the time from start to finish. So if you have a big band, then you have a big sound for the complete 6 minutes. I would say that the root cause, if you go to the rule and say, you can have half playing in that tune, you can have everybody playing in that tune, you can have 2 drummers playing there, and don't use the chord until the last piece. You know, what we need to get rid of all that rules and regulation. Yeah, but MSRs not really designed for pipe band anyway, and everybody gets right. It's not. If you look at March of Spain reels, there's so much decoration and rhythm within the settings of the tune for the pipers to actually demonstrate. And that's, when I say Strathclyde customise it, they actually do away with most of the rudiment being played properly. If you listen to it, they're clipping so many of them. If you had a solo piper play that, you would go on last. I know you would have on last. So they customise it so much because the settings of the tunes are not designed, A, to be played at that tempo, and some of the tunes are not even designed to be played in strict metric. And which means you don't need a drum corps.
And even more fundamentally, if I can interrupt, they're not even designed to be played together. The March to Spain reel. It's the most peculiar thing that we've ended up with. Now, somehow there's a lovely balance about that unit, March to Spain reel, but it's a completely artificial construct.
The bagpipe's a complete instrument, but it's playing a March to Spain.
See, I just think you guys are on a cop out here.
No,
it's because it's so difficult to do.
Rubbish.
It's very difficult to do.
Field marshal are trying to put all the movements in, that's why you're getting the thickness and the willingness.
And whenever you achieve it, it's very satisfying.
And the last thing a March to Spain really is, with all the decoration and work on it, is a drum score that has a whole new language, and their equivalent to Taurus and Throadies, everything thrown in there, right over the top of everything, and not just playing single and double flat where you've got drums, the chord coming in, playing chips every now and again. Then you add in half a dozen tenor drummers plus a bass drum. You've no longer got a March to Spain reel in traditional settings. So why are you looking for it?
I think it's just a bit of a cop-out to you guys because you're so medley orientated now. It's so medley orientated.
It's simply not true. Well, if you go to his band practice and you come to mine,
hate playing the March to Spain.
The rule is I talk and you listen, and then you talk and I listen. If you come to his practice or mine, I bet you spend more time on MSRs than you do on men.
You have to.
We have to.
You have to because it's more difficult.
Of course.
It's more
point. But it's not just more difficult to play in the back, it's more difficult again to play with the drum corps. To play.
Yeah, well, what's should actually be playing with you.
Alistair's not said very much.
I've just been sitting here listening. You know. One of the things that always struck me about Strathclyde Police Plate Band was the bass drum. It always had a distinctive bass sound which seemed to pull the whole band together. And you know, one of the first times I ever judged ensemble, I felt the Strathclyde Police almost had a stereo sound, like sitting in your car and everything's hitting. And it came from that bass drum. Joe was talking about the pitch of the side drums going up to try and match the chanter. Has the bass moved as well? Have you moved that up?
Yeah.
So has that affected the sound? No, that was just one observation. The other thing I was going to say is that I've got a thing about drum corps playing intensely or aggressively, which an awful lot of top grade 1 drum corps do these days.
I've got 100 sheets when you mentioned it.
I know. To me, a pipe band performance, whether it's a March to Spain reel or it's a medley, should be totally relaxed and music's coming out. And if you see a lot of people with their heads down, battering away, that gives you the impression that it isn't relaxed, and that music doesn't come out. So I think that's a factor in a lot of drum corps these days. But you also mentioned that there's different drum scores. There's bands still playing on it. There's drum scores for March to Spear Bill.
Yeah, but I don't consider that. I consider that's modern, but I'm talking about.
I know, but no, you're talking about drum scores that were written way back in the 60s. There's bands still playing them yet. And at the end of the day, it's how they play them. It's the real impact.
That brings me to my next point about spade playing. Now, I think the spade playing in March and Spear Fields and bands these days is absolutely horrendous. And I think it's down to the drummers. And they're playing these kind of triplet things, filling in the 4 beats and losing and killing the lift. I'm actually amazed at how the pipers and Grade 1 bands today can play spades to these beats. It's extraordinary. Can you just roll on? I mean, it's okay if you get a tune like Cameroni Ran, which we'll hear now from Strathclyde, which has got all these runs in it. That kind of drum beating seems to suit that tune.
That bass drum sounds like a toilet door. That's how it sounds like one on the bass drum.
And we're talking about drum beats. Can you move?
Not just a door, a toilet door.
Well,
Let me in.
there's nobody here from the bass section union, so we can count them over. Like, could you see that wee bit of like Field Marshals, so see if you can find it, Andy? This is so much. But, I mean, I don't know if anybody accepts the point I'm making here, but they fill in all the gaps. There's a continuous sound. The drummers can't have a pause anymore in spade playing, which would give it the required lift.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I also agree that they tend to write 9/8 jigs for spades.
That's right.
That's exactly, you could play Paddy's Leather Beach just in that beat and
Yeah.
that chapter playing it.
It's very hard to get
So
leading
how are you
drummers
going to
to
change it? You guys need to change
Well,
that.
you
need to put it on your
You
score.
don't hear Jim doing that a lot. You don't hear Drew doing that a lot. I mean, there are drummers who really do pay attention to try and get. Mike Hunter is another good example of somebody who really understands what a spade idiom
But
is.
to
and how
me,
to
if I
manage it.
heard that Field Marshals spade, I was the drumming judge, and I'm saying, well, they should be helping the pipe. That is not helping the piping. Then I'm going to bomb this mob here, because that is just the antithesis of what they should be doing.
Yeah.
But you probably were first or second for drumming.
I think
Don't
that,
know. They
I
wanna do right up there.
don't know about that, when it comes to comments and sheets, etc., I think anybody here who's had the good fortune or misfortune to have one of my sheets, I'm always hammering this thing about too many triplets and losing the idiom of
Sure,
the...
but that's a drummer's comment. A Strathspade is a dance of triplets.
Yes.
That, if you analyse any Strathspade,
If you get triplets going all the time,
all the
time,
like to do the same thing.
completely lose...
Check it out, 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 check it out.
Is it a